And I go back to my, 2011 version of myself, and it's like, oh, I want to make it to the games. It's like, all right, cool, you did it, awesome, yay. And then you did it for 6 years in a row as an individual and then team. So it's like, all right, pat yourself on the back, enjoy it. What do I want to move on to? What do I want to do? And I think as I got older also, I'm like, all right, we're not always guaranteed every day, week, month, year, but what can I do to enjoy my life now, but also, tomorrow, next month, and make sure I take the most of every opportunity.
Welcome back to another episode of the Mountain Tough podcast. It means a ton to see you guys back listening to these episodes week after week, and thanks so much for taking the time to be here. It is our goal to bring you meaningful and impactful guests week after week to help you change your life and live an abundant life. And thanks for making us one of the top mental toughness podcasts in the country. As always, Mountain Tough doesn't run ads on our podcast. We just ask that if these episodes are helping you live a better life, just please leave us a review and rate and rank this podcast in the podcast store of your choice. Those reviews and those messages mean a ton to us. So if you have the time to do that, that would be phenomenal. If you haven't checked out the Mountain Tough Plus app yet, remember you can always dive in there on a 14-day free trial. So you can just download that app in the app store of your choice, and you have 14 days for free to check out all of our programming, all of our content on physical performance, mental performance, and nutrition. This is one of our favorite times of year at Mountain Tough. It is September. Archery elk season has kicked off here in Montana. So we're spending a lot of time out and about in the backcountry, chasing elk around with our bows. We're just so fortunate to live here, where in Montana, we have the blessing of being able to go on some early morning elk hunts or some after work elk hunts. And the elk are in full rut now, and it is an absolute blast. It is what we live for, and it's been a lot of fun. In the lab, work hasn't stopped. We are creating a lot of new progressive programs. We did just release Sandbag 20 September 1st. So if you haven't seen that, or if you haven't checked out Sandbag 20, I highly recommend it. The Sandbag 20, we teamed up with GoRuck and we created a sandbag program. It's 4 weeks, 5 days a week, a progressive sandbag program that you can literally do anywhere with hardly any gear at all. All you're going to need is a sandbag, a kettlebell, and your ruck, and you can do this program straight from the app, inside, outside, and the workouts are game-changing. We tested them all here in the Bozeman lab, and there's nothing quite like training with a sandbag for taking your functional fitness to a whole new game. So definitely check that out if you haven't. Diving into today's episode, I was able to sit down with Margaux Alvarez. Margaux Alvarez is an absolute beast. She did go to the CrossFit Games 6 years in a row. Her gym training, her fitness programming, her content is definitely something to check out. I met Margaux a few years ago at SIG Hunter Games in Evanston, Wyoming. And through that experience at SIG Hunter Games, she has shifted her focus and is spending a lot more time shooting now, doing the tactical games, and she is planning her first hunt this year. This was an amazing episode. It was so much fun to sit down with Margaux. It is an episode you're not going to want to miss, so stand by with our conversation. So he was in central Montana, just died of it didn't look like a mountain lion or anything. It just old age.
That old age.
Winter.
And do they go somewhere when they die? Because a friend of ours was telling us when elk are about to die, or they feel like they're going to die, or they're sick, whatever, they'll go to the water, or the river.
They're always in little creek bottoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, even small creeks, you'll find a lot of dead bulls in.
Wow.
It's pretty wild.
It is. Because I saw that from across the room, and I was like, am I seeing that right? And I got up a little closer, I was like, oh, that is. I'm like, that's so unique. And I was wondering if there was maybe some sort of injury, maybe he lost one of the sheds, and then it regrew crooked and down.
Yeah, they say that those because that's called a crooked pedestal.
Okay.
So the antlers coming off a pedestal on the skull, and that left one's crooked. They say a lot of times when they're in velvet, they will hit on something, and it'll totally misshape that pedestal for a year or two.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So it could possibly grow back like even in a way.
Yeah, if he had a healthy year.
Okay.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. There's so much that I didn't really learn, like get exposed to when I was younger. So I'm like, now it's like, I'm starting from like square one.
Yeah.
But I love it. It's good. I'm always wanting to seek that knowledge and learn more. I just feel like it's like learning a language for the first time. You're like, oh man, I'm like at a 2-year-old's level.
There's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
There's a ton. Were you doing any shooting at all before that SIG Hunter Games that I met you at, the first one?
No. So I would say like that was kind of like the initiation. I'd done like CCW.
Yeah.
I'd done some like classes on, training for AR, like for more protection wise, like, all right, if I need to secure my house or if I need to be in a situation where I have to do this for protection, what do I need to do? So I had a little bit of pistol, a little bit of rifle, and then a little bit of shotgun. And when I say a little bit, it was like, I want to say 6 to 8 hours of a shotgun, and like the right side of my right side of my cheek was just like all swollen. Like, oh, it was a lot of rounds.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like the only really practice I had. And then when the Hunter Games came in 2022, that was kind of like, all right, this was like a little bit more of like in terms of the hunting aspect. And that kind of spurred, like, all right, that kind of ignited the fire to say, all right, I'm going to do a tactical games competition where I need to focus more on training. I wanted to do the tactical games in 2021. But I was like, I kept kicking the can down the road. Cause I'm like, I need to train, but it's like, I didn't know where to start, what to do. So I kept pushing that can a little bit further. And then 2022, after the 100 Games, I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this. Yeah, I need to like sign up and set a date. And I had about 4 weeks to train for that, which I don't recommend. I definitely don't recommend 4 weeks, but it was good because it's like I was trying to go to the range every single day. But the 100 Games was amazing. I was for sure the rookie there, I think. And I told the girls, I was like, my fitness is fine. Like I can get like I'll be able to hike whatever I need to. Like that's what I'm not worried about. I'm making sure that I don't like mess it up for the team. Like, don't F it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of the first exposure to a little bit more shooting, at least in that hunting aspect and just shooting in general. And then I started doing more practice, more range days, going to the range, working on drills, working with Alex, and just trying to figure out, all right, what do I need to do to get better?
Yeah, for the tactical games.
For the tactical games, yeah. And then I did that in 2022 in Arizona in, I think, September. And that was like great. And then I qualified for the finals, which was awesome, but I couldn't make it out there. It was like the following week right after Rogue Invitational, which is usually in Austin. And it was just a lot of bad timing in terms of driving there, trying to come back. Because I was like, I'm going to go there. I want to bring all my gear. Like, and I'd never flown with any. I think I've heard from people it's relatively easy to fly with like rifles and pistols and making sure it's in a locked box. But I'm like, well, yeah, then I need my full kit. I need my bag. I need my ammo. Yeah. So I was like, oh, so I couldn't make it happen, but I want to do more in the future for sure. But that hunting aspect, like taking the hunting course in June, that was awesome where I saw you guys there.
Yeah.
That was like, all right, I want to do more. Like I want to understand more. I want to learn more. I want to make sure that I'm kind of well-versed in everything that I need to do. And of course, I know I'm not going to be there the first couple months or first year.
Yeah.
But it's exciting because it's, again, not knowing anything and then wanting to learn and wanting to be educated by those that do have the knowledge.
So how did they find you for the first Hunter Games? Did you just get a random call one day?
So actually, a friend of mine, Laura Zera, you know
Yeah.
Laura, she's awesome. She had messaged me. She's like, hey, do you have, and her and I we have crazy schedules where it's like, can we see if our schedules align at like this one certain point? And she reached out and was like, hey, are you busy this weekend? And I had travel plans to another location, but they weren't set. So I was like, well, I can make it happen. She's like, perfect. She's like, I'm doing this competition. She sent me like the PDF and the information on it. And I was like, this looks really cool. Like, I feel like I'm really outside my element though. I was like, I don't know. But I was like, I don't want to pass up this opportunity because like, you don't always have a second chance sometimes. So I was like, yes, let's do it. I was like, sign me in. She's like, yeah, I'm excited. So she got me in contact with everyone. And then it was like a mad rush. I was like, I need to go to REI. I need to get like some pants and like some jackets. And I had like some winter gear, but nothing for hunting. We're like, you're in different elements, which I'm so glad because we literally got, all 4 seasons in like 24 hours.
Yeah, in June.
Yeah.
It was like late June and there was a few inches of snow that night.
Yeah, I think it was, I can't remember the exact dates, but I rolled up in like shorts and a tank top and I was like, oh, it's kind of hot in here. It's like 83 degrees. I was like, oh, this is perfect. I was like, hope it cools down at night to sleep. And then we woke up and it was like cloudy, a little bit of rains. We're like, oh, it might snow. It was freezing temperature. And I was like, all right, this is cool. I'm glad I brought all my layers and all the new clothes I bought.
Yeah. I remember seeing the tents collapse on everyone, like all the competitors.
Yeah.
The one-man tents.
I
The
heard
snow was just like sitting on their face.
It was so bad. I remember, I don't know what time it was, but I remember hearing someone walk. I could hear the crunch in the snow. And it was like, brush, brush, brush. I was like, what is that? It's like, is that a mountain lion? Is that a bear? Is it a deer? I'm like, I'm just not going to move. move. And then I heard like a brush. I was like, oh, someone's like pushing snow off because it snowed that much. And luckily, like knock on wood, not many people's tents collapsed, but there were a couple that did collapse and they had to go inside the lodge.
Yeah, cut their way out.
Yeah, it was wild. But again, like I feel like that's what makes it real. Like you're going to be in an environment, again, I haven't been in a hunt, but I can imagine what it's going to be like, especially during the winter. It's like you could have decent weather, then you have a storm roll in, you have snow, sleet, hail, snow, and then next thing you know, you wake up with like an extra foot of snow. It's like, all right, this is real.
You got to be ready for anything.
100%.
Especially like most of these Western hunts are at high elevation and the weather just flips like at any second.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So it's like, you got to be prepared for that. And of course, like the physical element is important, but then also like, if you're not prepared, like, do you have the layers? Do you have the clothing? Do you have the boots? And that was the one thing I was like, all right, I brought like one pair of boots. I think I bought an extra pair of shoes just in case, but I was like, there's no way I could hike in those. So I was like, all right, go. Let's put these warm, like cold boots on again.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful for that experience. And I'm so grateful that Laura thought of me to do it because it was awesome. Like, I mean, being able to connect with you and so many other awesome people out there and seeing this kind of play out. I know it's not a real hunt, but again, it mimics that. But obviously the competition, and I'm definitely not competitive at all as I roll my eyes.
The competition was awesome.
It was super fun. And I was like, man, I really want to win. We didn't win, but it's like, all right, if we do this again, we have to get a team together so that we can win it.
And you wound up on the all ladies team. And you guys did really well.
Yeah, I'm happy. Awesome. I think don't quote me on this, but I think we finished like 7th.
Yeah.
I think there was this 12 or 13 team. So middle-ish of the way.
Yeah.
So, but I was happy again. Like I just didn't want to be like the weak link. And I know at one point when you're on a team, there will be a time or a moment that you will be that weak link. So I was like, all right, if I can just mitigate that as much as I can.
And you hadn't shot much rifle shooting before that. Like that was
kind of
learning
like,
by fire.
Yeah. And I feel like I'd done some like rifle shooting, but not much. And it was very like, again, like a sprinkling of assault. And so I was like, all right, I just have to I feel like I can pick things up pretty easily. I have ability to absorb knowledge or cues or information. So I feel like I was able to kind of be adapting relatively quick. But as a competitor, it's like, all right, I wish I would have had more experience, more repetitions on my belt so that I can do better, so I can like hold my own. So, but it's like, I'd hear the steal. I'm like, all right, awesome. And then I'd hear it miss. I'm like, no, I don't want to hit 0 out of 0.
You guys definitely had like the most encouraging team though, the way you guys were supporting each other. We didn't see that like hardly on any other teams, which is really interesting.
Which is a bummer because I feel like as a team, like sport or team camaraderie, again, even though it's a competition, you're shooting, there should be something to uplift. And we were always as supportive. And if someone had zero shots, like, hey, it's okay, the next one's going to be yours. Or hey, we'll get you'll find the next steel target on the next like station. And I feel like everyone would want that because that's what's going to help you keep going and be positive at the next station, especially when you have to hike, 30 minutes there. It's like, all right, you can sit and mull about those shots and be negative in your mind, but that's not going to help you. And if you're like tearing your other teammate down, that's not going to help either.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how everyone else was, but I know for us, it was like, we were like kind of positive. And of course we all had our like, oh man, I wish I didn't do so bad. But I think we did a great job of communicating, which I think if you think you're doing a good job of communicating, probably do a little more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's in all facets of life.
That's awesome. So after Hunter Games, do you feel like that led to this experience where you started thinking more about like, what if I did go on my own hunt and harvested my own animal and had like my own meat in the freezer? Hunter Games kind of kicked off that journey and that thought process for you?
100%. I, without a doubt, was like, okay, I want to go train more. I want to, learn from other people, take classes, take courses, whatever it is, and actually go. And that's something I've been wanting to do for a while. Not that like the COVID or the shutdown like kind of inspired that. Like I've always wanted to like, hey, I want to have my own meat or I want to go hunt my own meat just because I feel like I can prepare for my family or friends or have, you get your animal and then you have this for, 6 months or 9 months, however much you can make it last.
Yep.
But that was kind of like, all right, that was not the line in the sand, but I was like, all right, I'm dropping the foot. Like, all right, I need to actually do something or take action to take those steps and versus just say it, like, okay, I have intention for it, but actually take action. So I think for sure that was like the domino that fell. It's like, all right, what do I need to do to get better or to learn? And so I started kind of talking to say like, hey, are you doing courses? And I saw there was courses that year. They didn't work out schedule wise. I didn't take them, but that's where that one came into play this year.
Yeah.
But for sure, like I want to be able to, obviously it's a life you're taking. So making sure your shot's ethical, making sure you take the animal, but then also knowing, all right, I'm taking the life, but you're grateful and thankful. And then you're utilizing that meat or that animal in all aspects, the meat, everything that you can. I've been wanting to do that. So this was kind of like that first, all right, let's actually do it, Margaux.
That's
Versus
awesome.
just like think about it and say about it. And I feel not that I haven't been surrounded by those types of people, but being there and getting to meet other individuals, from different backgrounds, but also having an interest in hiking or interest in hunting.
Yeah.
For me, that was like, all right, this is really cool. So I'm getting to hear their stories of maybe what hunts they've gone on or where their journey started. I was like, all right, I feel like I'm way behind again. I'm super late. I'm a 2-year-old starting my journey, but it's like a better late than never in my mind.
Yeah, you can start at any time.
Exactly. So for me, it's like, all right, I want to learn not just one little bit of information, but as much as I can so that I can take steps to continue to do it. Because I think right now the goal is December, January. We're going to do a hunt with Peter and Rob.
Awesome.
I think it'll be in Utah, and I'm excited. I'm like, oh man, I'm a little nervous because like, oh, okay, I gotta make sure I'm prepared fitness wise, but also prepared shooting wise, because I want to make sure I can get out there and do what I need to do when the time comes.
So your first hunt will probably be this year then.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
so either end of December or begin January, depending on like weekend time frame. But yeah, so I'm like stoked. I'm like, oh, this is exciting. And I know people have done it for like, oh, it'd be cool. But I'm like, oh, it's like the first thing that you do. It's like, I feel like there's so many emotions and thought processes. I'm like, all right, what about this? What do I need to do? Like, you want to make sure you're as prepared as possible once you get there.
Will that be a cow elk hunt?
Yeah, be cow elk hunt in
That's
Utah.
awesome.
So I'm super excited. I mean, of course, I want to do everything else too, but it's like, all right, let's one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So
that's a great place to start.
Yeah, that's what some people have said.
Yeah. And the skills and stuff that you learned at that last school, that was pretty phenomenal in terms of like firearm safety was there, and then the shooting, and then getting stable, seated, prone, tripod. I mean, they kind of covered the gamut at that last one.
Oh, I feel like it's everything. And again, there's probably other scenarios or situations that will arise. But for me, it was like, all right, what do I need to pack? What do I need to bring, weather-wise or shoe-wise, gear-wise, but then also knowing 100% like getting everything zeroed out for your rifle so you know what you need to do when you get out there. But then it's like different elements, like the wind, like that one, I think I'm not sure if you were there, but they had like a little rain, then it was like snow, like almost snow, sleet. I was like, oh man, like literally things could drop in 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, now you're shooting into a valley, there's wind, and you're not going to always have everything perfect where it's like quiet, no wind, slightly cloudy temperature. So it's just like, it was good to learn all of that. And there's so many like kind of layers of an onion that you slowly peel back. And it's like, all right, there's constantly new things to learn and adapt. And then, standing and shooting off of a tripod and then kneeling is like, woof, man, like not always are you going to be able to lay on your belly and be prone and have like that perfect shot. So I think that was really nice on the third day where we got to do those implements. And obviously I loved your station. That was the most fun because we incorporated a little fitness. But it's like you're going to be hiking and having to climb these huge mountains or hills. And then if you find that shot, it's like, all right, your heart rate might be a little elevated. You might not be able to calm down or like have the time to recover as quickly as you want.
Yeah, we saw that pretty good at our station, just with what a little bit of stress will do to people too, and like managing that stress. And it was really interesting.
It was. And again, that competitor, Alex and I were talking about, like the competitor was like, oh, I need to be first. So like as we're walking, I'm okay, let me be in front so I can go first. But it's like, doesn't necessarily mean you need to go first because your heart rate's up. But it was cool to watch everyone afterwards to say, all right, cool. How do other people approach it? And there was one guy, Tom from Alaska, that was his nickname. But his kind of approach to it was a lot different than mine was, especially with the Station 2, where it's like, he's like, I'm just going to walk, lay down, take a shot, and like nail it.
He was like Joe Cool. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was like super like almost robotic, where it's like, oh, you've done this numerous times. Cool. Like I haven't. So that shows my inexpertise in that, or not knowledgeable in that aspect. But I mean, I did do pretty good shooting wise, so like I'm happy for myself. Give myself a little pat on the back. But it was, again, I think the practice from last year, this year, spending a little more time behind the firearm and going through kind of more repetitions, that definitely was helpful. But also knowing like you can't force it, you can't rush it. I mean, as much as you're breathing heavy or whatever you're doing, you need to make sure that everything's good to go. You're 100% going to take that shot. So when you do take that shot, it's legit and it's good, and there's no like open ends.
Make it count.
Yes, make it count, exactly.
At that school and at the Hunter Games, did you feel like a lot of what you learned through being a CrossFit athlete, like the mindset and the like competition tricks and tips and hacks that like helped you at both of those schools? For
sure. I think it definitely did. I think the ability and the mindset and the mental training I've done over the years definitely had a kind of a parallel effect to it or play to it, because you have to stay calm. If you start to like get inside your head and you have negative self-talk, talk yourself out of it, then that can definitely have a direct kind of impact on your physical effort. And for sure, I could feel that carry over. I think I've done so much competition. It's like I get into the routine, I get into the flow of how I want to do things, and then coming to the same thing to the shot, like, all right, cool, relax, don't think of anything else, just focus on the task at hand. That definitely helped. And it's weird because you don't think like, all right, well, competing in, fitness competitions or doing CrossFit and hunting would have that parallel, but I think it does have some sort of connection where how you think, how you talk to yourself, what you're telling yourself on that competition floor and what you're doing, on your position or on your belly or whatever station you're at or whatever mountain you're on.
Yeah.
I think there definitely has an impact. And I think whether you do any fitness or any competition or don't, and then you find the hunting and then you take that to a different aspect or a different industry where it's like there is a blend for sure. It doesn't have to be competition. It could be like yoga or something else. I feel like there definitely is a connection. And it's like, how do you tap into that or how do you train that? And it is hard. Like the mental aspect, the mental training component is very hard. People are like, well, how do you do that? It takes time.
Yeah.
And it's something that's hard to measure. It's like stretching. It's like, oh, I can't touch my toes. I'm like, you're not going to be able to touch them tomorrow, but over 3 or 4 months, you'll be able to touch them. But it takes time and consistency and repetition to get there.
It's hard to measure.
It is.
But
100%.
It's like all that resilience and adaptability and like performing under pressure. There's so much crossover between like fitness and hunting because it's very, very similar. Like it's the same thing, like visualizing what you want to do and calming down. The crossover is pretty significant, and it seems difficult to build that mental resilience without the physical.
Yeah.
Like to do it without going through all those hard workouts seems like it would be a really difficult task.
Yeah. I think of it as kind of like you dry fire, like you do your dry fire drills and you go through the kind of like you're practicing, you're like going through the motions, like you're breathing, whether you're sitting, standing, prone. And then I think of that parallel to like whether you're in the gym and you're going through the motions or you're at the competition field and you're visualizing what you're going to do. Like, all right, cool, I'm going to do squats and then I'm going to go over to the bike and I'm going to bike my, 1,000 meters. Then I'm going to go to my pull-up bar and I'm going to do my 20 pull-ups and I'm going to repeat this for 3 rounds or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're visualizing. And I used to do that so much leading up to competitions, whether it was for regionals, the games, the open, just kind of going through that, like that methodology of consistently seeing it, mimicking it, like, all right, cool, I'm doing my pull-ups, I'm doing my squats. It sounds weird, like me mimicking the motions, but it's like that helped me get so good. And that aspect of going through that that has a direct parallel effect, direct correlative to how you would dry fire or how you envision yourself, like, cool, I'm going to get into the position. You don't have to actually be in the mountains, but you could visualize this, sit this, be in your living room and couch. Cool, I'm going to hike, when I get to that position, I'm going to lay out my rifle, I'm going to lay out my belly, I'm going to put my bag here, I'm going to prop my elbow up and just visually doing that, but then also imagining it and like actively like going at home and doing it. I know it sounds weird, but
it's a huge skill though. I mean, like almost all professional athletes are doing that in one way or another for any sport they're playing because it has such a great impact.
For sure. Like I think of, and I'm not good at basketball at all whatsoever, but like you see people, they're taking those shots of like they have a penalty or something like that. And it's like, how many shots have they taken from that line? How many repetitions have they done in their, 1, 2, 5, 10-year career? Like it should be something that you could almost do with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
And I think again, doing something for so long, it just becomes natural and like just so familiar, like the back of your hand. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll feel. And it's tough because in the beginning, you're like, oh, am I doing it right? Should I be doing this? Is this a waste of time? It's like, no, it's not. There's a purpose behind it, but sometimes it's hard to see that purpose. Sometimes it's hard to see, is this going to pay off? Like, is this worth it at the end of the day? It is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to see that. But when I've worked with a variety of people through like, whether it's coaching or, traveling for seminars, and talking to them and having them tell me their story. And it's like, hey, like it will be worth it. It's sometimes hard to get there. And it's like, so I'm telling myself now, it's like, all right, cool. Like I don't have the experience of, having so many shots out in the field, but it's like, I can work on my dry fire drills. I can visualize, I can work on, the fitness that's going to help me get there so that I'm less winded.
Yeah.
Or I have legs strong enough that it's going to be fine no matter how much I'm carrying in my pack.
Yeah. It just takes so many hours to create that muscle memory.
Yeah, I agree.
But the muscle memory is what you're going to rely on when like all the stress sets in.
Yeah, because your body like that fight or flight or like the adrenaline kicks in. You're like, no.
Yeah.
But then it's like, all right, take a breath, get some more oxygen in your body, reset, close your eyes, focus on what you did time and time again, and then your body will remember that. And I think we are creatures of habit. So if you are creating this habit in a good way, then that will be a little bit easier to kind of fall back on, or at least rely on when you're in that position or that like specific moment.
So when did your CrossFit journey start?
So I would say it started in 2011. I had heard about it, I think, a few months before that. Some friends of mine, people I knew within the gym, were like, "Hey, you should like check out CrossFit." I was like, "Nah." Like, I just joined a UFC gym, and I was like, maybe I'll do fighting, do like the Fight Fit classes and the BJJ. And I heard about it. I was like, all right, eventually maybe like after I do a few months here, and then come like I think it was like early 2011, did some Spartan races, and some friends were like, you should totally check out CrossFit again. I was like, okay, maybe. So a friend of mine and I went to a gym that I was at in California, and I did like, it's like one of the elements like on ramp classes, and I did it, and I can't remember which one was first. I had one was like wall balls. I actually, no, wait, let me retract. I did a class first, and then I did the elements. And the class, actually, I remember the class was snatches with a 45-pound barbell and like burpees. And I have a short thumb, so you can see it.
One short thumb.
So one short thumb. So my right thumb is shorter. It's like almost like, I don't know, like half an inch or quarter inch shorter. And so like trying to grip the barbell, I was like, man, this is really hard, especially on a 45.
Yeah.
And it was just the bar. Like I had no weight on it. I was like, I feel so awkward. But I remember afterwards, I want to say it was like a 6 or 7 minute like AMRAP of burpees and snatches. And afterwards I was like, oh, I'm dying. I was so out of breath, but I was like, I felt so rejuvenated. I felt so, that's really hard. I want to get better.
Yeah,
like
that
was
challenge.
Yeah, that was so challenging, but I was like, I almost felt like life was pumped into me. And I think, losing my sister in 2008, I was kind of like lost, trying to find my way. Fitness was an outlet for me. Like moving, specifically running, was an outlet for me. Like I could think, or I could listen to music, and just whatever I had in my head, emotions, thoughts, whatever, could all go out the window, or I could just process them as I was running. And so when I found that, I was kind of like, I think I found something that could help me, or I found something that could like channel my energy. So then I went back to the elements classes. It was like wall balls, like ring rows, and something else. And it's funny because the instructor, Tammy Lacey, she's amazing. We've kept in touch over the years. She was like, man, you come into my elements classes. And she's like, and I asked, I was like myself and I think 3 other people to grab a wall ball, like 14 for ladies, 20 for guys. And I guess they're all out of 14. So I just grabbed a 20. And she's like, you did 20-pound wall ball.
Just went for it.
I just went for it. Again, I didn't know. And like, obviously I find out later, I'm like, oh, these are killer. Like they literally take your breath away. But I just fell in love with it. And I love that physical push, but I also love that like it challenges you, like only you. Like, yes, you might be competing in class, but it's you against yourself. Like, what can you do? What are you capable of? But also, what will you be capable of in the future? And that Kool-Aid CrossFit drinking girl, yeah, that was me. Like, obsessive, like weird. There's a video from the 2011 games that I volunteered at. Oh, it's scary. I'm like, I don't think I want to show anybody this. Let's just put that in like the back quarter and close the door.
You just went all in.
Oh, ham. And I think after I think I joined like beginning of March, and that's when the Open had just started, the competition. So I signed up for it. Couldn't do double unders. I'll find the picture. There's a really bad picture of me screaming because I couldn't do double unders. It's horrible. But again, I loved trying to challenge myself and push myself. And I think over the years, I've learned that I tend to seek out challenging things. I tend to gravitate towards things that are maybe that I'm not knowledgeable of or I can do, but I'm like, well, why not? Like if I don't try, I won't know. And if I do try and I can't do it, then at least I attempted it. And I think after that first month, I went and took the mobility seminar with Kelly Sorrett. And then I want to say 2 months after that, in June, I went and took my level 1. And I was just like, I remember telling one of the instructors, I was like, I want to go to the games. He's like, sure, okay, yeah, Mark. And I saw him years later when we worked on seminar stuff. He's like, man, of all the people that told me that you were going to go to the games, like you actually did it.
That's insane.
And I was like, thanks. I was like, yeah, I was like, I mean, but again, like if I don't try, if I don't put all my eggs in that basket and I don't take that attempt, I'll never know.
Yeah.
Or I might have regret later. It's like, I wish I would have. But then I think volunteering for the games and going out to like the SoCal regionals when it was 2 regions and then doing the games that year, it was kind of, for me, it was like, well, I want to see kind of behind the scenes. I want to help out. I loved it so much that I was like, I don't care. I'll do whatever I need to do.
Just want to be part of it.
I just want to be part of it. And I loved the community. And I think that was the biggest thing when I tell people now, and even back then, the community is the biggest thing. Like, yes, it's challenging for yourself. And if you're looking for something to help you physically, mentally, emotionally, it can definitely be that. It doesn't have to be CrossFit, but I think the community aspect was huge because it's like the camaraderie and the support and the uplifting that people provided you. And I think that's where I think back to the Hunter Games. It's like, if you help uplift other people, like even if that person's spirit or attitude's down, that positive energy will help uplift them.
Oh,
Maybe not all the way to where they want to be, but at least it's like one notch up or one step up.
The community aspect of fitness is amazing.
For sure. And it doesn't, again, like I said, it doesn't have to be CrossFit. It could be Zumba, it could be yoga, it could be whatever, you know, like classes. But I think it's so incredible the power that it can have in a positive way. So that was kind of the beginning. I know I kind of went on a tangent, but that was kind of the beginning. And then after being at the games and volunteering, I was like, you know, I want to compete here. Like seeing these athletes, men and women and teams on there, like on the competition field, I was like, I want to do that. I really want to compete. So it was like, what do I need to do? I ended up, the job that I was at, I was a marketing coordinator. They were actually leaving and going to the East Coast. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do
Gotta
that.
stay
Like,
at the gym.
So I ended up like, when that job left, I was like, all right, I'll coach full time. I'll take a pay and cut. I'll lose health insurance, all that stuff. But I was like, I don't care. Like I loved training people because I got into personal training before. And I loved training. I loved helping people and seeing the aspect that how it helped them as well. So I was like, I know it's helped me. Physical exercise and movement has helped me. How can I hopefully help others? And that's where the training and the coaching came in. It's like, I'd rather try to get to the games and help other people in this process while I'm trying to help myself. And, if it happens, awesome. If not, then, we'll see. And I remember my dad was like, so like, how are you going to make money? I'm like, I don't know. I'll figure it out.
We'll figure that out later.
Yeah, exactly. So
what year was the first games you went to?
2013. So like 2 years later. So.
And you had to make it through the open, which I don't know the numbers back then, but it's pretty staggering now, right? Like how many people go through the open?
Oh man, it's hard. Like the numbers that go through the open, I can't even I don't think I can remember like number. I know there's a good number of people that would compete like in the thousands, hundreds, like not hundreds of thousands, but like tens, 20, 30,000.
Yeah.
But I know in 2011, I think they took top 60 individuals in each like region. And then in 2012 and 2013, they changed it to like top 45.
Okay.
So I was like, oh man, like you have, and it's funny because people are like, oh, California had 2 regions. Well, that's where CrossFit started. So there was so many people there. So they had it split like Northern California and then Southern California. And so you have to make the top 45 to make it. And then 2013, 2011 and on, it was like always top 3. So it's like you had to make top 3. So out of the 60 people or out of the 45 people, you're like, crap.
That's wild.
Yeah, like I got it at the podium. And it's funny because in 2012, when I made it for regionals, I think it was like 41 or 42. So like barely made it in. And then my goal was like, I'll make it to the games. And I'm like, the naivety of myself was maybe a good thing, but also it's like, all right, might be a little hard when you don't have certain skills like a muscle up.
Yeah.
But I made it to the final day in 2012. So I was like, again, small little goals for myself. But 2013, same thing, 45 from the open and then top 3 only move on. So you're like, man, that's a small percentage.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just focusing on, again, the visualization, execution. The night before, I would always go through the events, like first event, second event, like how I'm going to execute. If something happens, how do I change it? If I need to be dynamic and for my plan, like what I'm going to do. So I would do that every night. And after the event, same thing, take some takeaways, like reflect on the workout, review what I just did, and then how can I apply that going forward? If you have a good workout, that's great, but you can't celebrate so much that you forget to plan for the next one, but you also can't like saturate yourself and like, oh man, this didn't go well. I'm like, all right, well, recognize what you can change and then move that forward. But 2013 is when I qualified. And it was kind of like, I made it. It's like, oh, you ever watch like Vegas Vacation at the end where he's like, they're at like playing, I can't remember, it was like one of some gambling
casinos,
casinos and Vegas Vacation. Chevy Chase is there with the family and the old man next to him, he's like, I won the money. I won the money. That's what I felt. I was like, I won. I'm like, oh my God, I made it. It was like this surreal. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It's like, but at the same time, it's like, well, I visualized myself. I planned on being on the podium. It wasn't a guarantee, but I put so much faith and work and the mental work and the visualization to be there. So it's like when I did it, it's like, I won. I really made it.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. So
how did that year go at the games?
it was good. It was my goal that year because that year they did cuts in 2013. So the goal was to make make it all the way through. So the cut was at 30, and so I think I finished 26 that year. So I mean, not like, and it's tough because like I get hard on myself. I'm like, man, like I should have done better. Like I want to do better as an athlete, but I have to put perspective. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, out of the 40 women in the world, I'm top 26 or
That's
I'm 26.
insane.
It's perspective. It's for sure. I have to remind myself of that because I'm always constantly striving. It's like, no, more, better. I have to be number one. I have to be at the top. And I think it's tough because you also give yourself credit, because if you don't give yourself credit, then you're like never satisfied or you're never happy.
The perspective of the size of the earth and the amount of people that are on it.
Yeah.
And you're in the top 0.001%
Exactly.
fitness.
Yeah. So, but I was grateful for the experience, and I always try to, and I tell people now, I always try to make the most of every opportunity and every chance you have, because that's not guaranteed. Like after that year, I was like, all right, cool. My goal is now to return back to the games, but I still have to put in the same, if not more work to get back there. Cause now there's more people that have found
more
it
competitive.
more competitive. So I was able to do that for 6 years in a row as an individual. But again, it's hard because you have to, that's your job. Like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a competitive athlete. I'm like, all right, cool. So it's like, you have to put, and now, even now, so it's way different because it's grown so much. It's like, you legit have to have nothing else pulling you away. And if you do have something, you have to delegate responsibility to someone else.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So you went 6 years in a row.
Yeah, 6 years in a row as individual. And then in 2019, I did team. So that was kind of like, all right, cool. I was kind of, I'm done competing individual. Like, I loved it. It was great. 2019 at the Rogue Invitational when it was in Ohio, that was my last like individual competition. And then an opportunity arose very quickly to be on the team. I was like, all right, cool. We'll do another year as a team, see how it goes, and you know, make the most of it. And it was really cool. I had a great experience. I think we finished 7th that year as a team. And again, it's tough because like I started my wine business in 2017. So like sometimes I'd be mentally here, but then physically here. And other times I'd be, you know, physically here and then mentally there.
Yeah.
So it was tough to like, you really got to stay. I'd really have to stay like zoned in on one or two things. Because if not, then it's like, oh man, I need to renew the license. I need to do business paperwork.
Focus.
Yeah, I got to like email those distributors back. I need to focus on customer emails. I need to fulfill orders. Oh yeah, I need to go finish my accessory. So
That's really hard.
it is.
Yeah.
And I had to be really good at time management. It's like, all right, the first 2 hours in the morning from like 8 to 10, I'm going to get up, I'll eat breakfast, do some computer work, do some emails, like check on the licensing paperwork. Then I'll go to the gym from, you know, like 10 to 4. And then if I don't get everything done, then I can maybe push a little longer. Then in the evening, you know, eat dinner, get back on the computer, finish whatever things, and then go to bed and then repeat that for days and weeks and months. But again, like I'm so grateful for it, but it's just, people ask me like, how'd you do it? I'm like, I don't know, honestly. I just had to do it. I didn't give myself any option.
Yeah, just found a way.
Yeah, I just found a way. And I think I constantly reminded myself, because in 2017, we finally got the licensing approved like middle of May, like a week before regionals. And I was like, thank goodness, because if we didn't get that licensing approved and we didn't get everything done, then we couldn't bottle. We wouldn't have any wine to launch in Madison. And it was like a rolling stone down a mountain in a bad way, where I was like, this is going to pick up momentum. But now it's like everything you thought you could do would be out the window. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I got that, like, okay, yeah, you got a license. Yay. Okay. Regionals is next weekend. We need to like hunker down, focus on what you need to do for that.
Crazy.
To make sure I still qualify.
When you went those 6 years in a row as an individual, were you coaching?
So I was coaching. A lot of it would be via seminar staff. So I got on seminar staff in 2013, right after the games, about 2 months after the games. So I would travel on the weekends when it was kind of the off season, even though I'm still training. I would do some like seminars, maybe like 2 or 3 seminars a month, depending on schedule. And then once kind of like the pre-open or the beginning of the year, I'd cut it back to maybe like once a month in seminars. Depending on where I was at, I'd guest coach from time to time. So in 2013, I was still guest coaching. 2014, I was like coaching at one of the local boxes there. 2015, I would do more seminars. In 2015, we were living in El Paso, and it was good. I'd guest coach from time to time, like maybe special classes here and there. And then when we lived in Montana, I'd coach from time to time. We would do like fun classes on the weekend with the team, with Zootown CrossFit.
Yeah.
And then in 2017 and 2018, I'd guest coach from time to time when we were living in Utah. There was a local gym that was down the road. I'm totally blanking right now. I'll think of it.
Were you getting like 3 training sessions a day in those years?
So I would I usually like to do them as a block. So I would do I try to get to the gym like 9 in the morning and then stay there till like 4 or 5, depending on the class. I know it sounds crazy. Like it's not straight through. Like I'd warm up, I'd do my mobility, do my warm ups, do some lifting, take breaks if classes were there that I'd maybe break away and go off to the side and do stuff. But I'd say it's a good like 6 to 8 hours of training.
Dang.
Again, like it's sometimes broken up. And some people, like in El Paso, for example, I'd probably do like 2 days, but I broke them up to like 3 hours in the morning, early afternoon, and then like 2-3 hours in the evening, depending on how much I had to do left. But yeah, it was long days.
Full time.
Yeah, full time. And then when I'm done, it's like, all right, cool, I'll come home. If I was like training, like a seminar, if I had a seminar on the weekend, I'd like prep and like make sure I did what I needed to do to be on par for that as a coach. Then I'd travel back. But I'd still, even when I'm gone, I'd have to do like almost I try to do like double days where like I'd get up in the morning, I'd do like Tabata stuff like in the morning, like squats, push-ups, like get something in the morning. And then, we'd have a workout at lunch with all the trainers. We'd do something. If I could squeeze something in, depending on where we're at, if other people needed extra work too, we'd stay afterwards and do stuff. And then on Sundays, I'd try to get up and run before the seminar, and then lunch, have another thing. And then if my flight was that evening, then I'd, fly home and then get back to it after that. So it's funny when I'm saying all this now, I'm like, man, that was crazy. Like all this stuff.
Just training all the time.
Yeah, just training and like just making sure that I need to do what I need to do. And then once I started the business, it was like, all right, cool. Now it's a little different. Where it's like, I need to reach out to distributors. I need to find out how I can get the wine to certain locations, or if I'm going to do online sales, DDC, like what do I need to do for that licensing wise? Paperwork, websites, all that stuff. So it's good. I think I've been, sometimes I just like put the blinders on. I'm like, cool, I got to do this, this, and this, which is good and a bad attitude sometimes. Cause it's like, I could keep going. Like I could literally be on my computer all day and be like, oh, my back hurts. I've been sitting for 8 hours. Can't imagine why.
Yeah. When did that entrepreneurship drive start for you? Have you had it a long time?
I don't know. It's a good question. I remember going to school and I thought I should probably take some entrepreneur like classes or business classes. And I went to school for business communications, but it was kind of all over the board in terms of classes. It wasn't a general focus. And I think when I became a personal trainer, that was like, all right, I love helping people. Like this is a way to go about it in terms of a job. But I don't think it really came into like recent years. Cause I think there was a point in 2015 after the CrossFit Games, I finished 9th that year. I was like, oh man, like that was amazing. Like I feel like I could win the games. Like if I can continue to do what I'm doing and continue to build on what I've done to get there, it'd be great. But then Alex and I were talking, it's like, well, what are you going to do after that? Like, cause I know I'm not going to compete forever. Like, yes, I could compete, I could evolve, but I think we evolve as individuals and we grow. So it's like, what am I going to grow into, or what I'm going to evolve into? I was like, well, I love fitness and I love wine. I was like, if I can blend these two together, no pun intended, and help others find their passions and find their aspirations, like maybe that's something I could do with fitness and business as well. And so that was like, all right, well, let's look into what we could do for that business-wise. And that's where kind of the idea of, starting a wine company, getting licensing and selling wine and, blending the fitness and wine together. And it was good, but it's like, again, it's like the layers on an onion. You don't realize, so you start to pull those layers back and you're like, holy crap. There's a lot of things I didn't realize. Yeah. Especially with alcohol or anything like alcohol, tobacco, all that. There's so many laws and licensing and regulations. It's like, man, like you think you make one step forward and then, oh, there's this big red tape that's like slapped across your face. All right, cool. I got to take 3 steps back. Like what do I need to do? Exactly. So there was a lot of frustrating times. There was a lot of doors like slamming in my face. There was a lot of times where I felt like I was sliding backwards and I'm like, man, like how am I ever going to make forward progress? I just had to be resilient. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to continue. I'm going to keep going. And I remember when I tried to get in the wine, originally in Montana and Missoula, and talking to the distributor there, one of the main managers, he's like, I feel like you kind of be like a little bit crazy, to like try to do this. I'm like, well, yeah, I might be a little crazy, but I'm like, if I don't do it, who's going to do it for me? Like, I don't have a sales team. I'm my sales team, I know we talked about that earlier, but it was just, if I don't take the steps and I'm not proactive about it, like who else is going to do it for me? No one's, unless I could hire someone, but then it's like I need to teach them an education. But for me, it's like, I love that personal connection. I love working hard and seeing the results. And I think that's why I loved working out in the farm, was like, I love, going down the rows of the vineyards and harvesting all the grapes. And at the end of, 4 hours, like, cool, I got 1 row. Great. I have like 10 more I got to do. But it's like that. It's that hard work that you put in, and I know you could probably relate to it. It's like all that effort you put in, and then you get to reap the rewards. You get to celebrate that afterwards. And I love it. It's just, sometimes it's like, man, you gotta like, you're in a deep, dark hole sometimes, and there's not much light, and you're like, that tunnel is gonna end at some point. It's not a train. It will get there. But you just have to be kind of resilient and maybe stubborn in a way to continue. So I feel like I definitely have some stubbornness. So I'll be able to channel that a little bit.
You definitely reap what you sow, and sometimes it just takes way longer than you think it is, but it's always worth it.
I agree.
So are you mostly focused on the wine business now and still doing competitions, but the competitions have switched to the tactical games?
Yeah, so it's kind of evolved a little bit. I was focusing a lot on the business. COVID hit, and that was kind of a big damper in terms of being able to do events, because we would travel and do events for that, wine and yoga nights. And then the next production took another pause just because like bottle prices, inflation, which is difficult because it's like, all right, well, I want to do my next production, but bottle prices are twice what they were before. So I've kind of put a pause on that. I still want to do the next production, but I've had some kind of splits with my previous partner. And so I'm redoing the label, redoing the wine. The wine will still be the same blend, but it'll be under another label, new wine label, a new wine company. And I love that because, again, it's a way to kind of enjoy and celebrate. Like the whole message is work hard, wind down. You
Yeah.
work hard in the gym, career, school, family. At the end of the day, enjoy a glass or bottle. But I do preach moderation. I will say that. Earn your grapes. But it's, again, like I want to continue to do that. But I also love the fitness because it's been a huge impact in my life. Being in the fitness industry for, 14 years, it's like it's so important and so valuable to me that I want to continue to do that. So evolved with kind of putting a lot of content out, a lot of videos out for free, just teaching people, whether it's teaching movements or workouts or educational components, mindset components as well, because that's a huge aspect that I feel like I really like and I want to share with people.
Yeah.
So it's tough because it's still the fitness and wine together, and I think the competition aspect, like you said, shifting to more of the tactile games, but also shifting my fitness towards something that's gonna kind of yield towards something or contribute to something. So like the hunting, that's why it's intriguing for me. Like, yes, I have to be physically fit and shape, but I also want to make sure that I can, hunt my own meat, provide for myself and my family, and having meat in the freezer that I went out and hunted myself is a very huge, big interest of mine.
Yeah.
So I think the competition may waver a little bit and change, but the tactical games for sure, because I feel like there's a lot, one that helps me with my accuracy, more repetitions of shooting, but also helps me kind of challenge myself and put myself in new environments physically.
Yeah.
Which I think I don't know why, but again, like I want to do something that's different and hard.
Got to relearn and train. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the like competitive desire you have to always like push yourself no matter what it is, like just applying that into a new realm, scratching kind of that creative new itch is super interesting. It's like very common with most high performers is like they're going to high perform at something. So even if they shift gears into something new, it's still that kind of obsessive mindset where you're going to break it down.
How'd you know? Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's, again, just like trying to push myself to that level. It's like, all right, well, you're not the top. You need to be the top. It's like, well, that top is, relative, but if I constantly am pushing myself and challenging myself, then I'll get better. And I am drawn to that for sure. Sometimes where I'm like, Margaux, just take a chill pill, just relax, just resonate with everything you've done. Like look back and see and take a moment to kind of reevaluate. So I definitely feel that I'll move out there. I mean, I think back to all the things that I used to do, from golf to like taekwondo, horseback riding, there's a lot of things that I enjoyed, but it's like, obviously to be the best in something, you have to kind of focus on it and, put your energy there. But then I get distracted sometimes. I'm like, ooh, I want to go ride my motorcycle. I'm like, oh, I want to go on a long trip.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think as I've gotten older too, I think I spent so much time in that competition realm of like, okay, in the gym, eat, train, recover, this kind of cycle of everything. I did so much and put so much time in there and I enjoyed it. But now I'm like, all right, well, I don't have to spend as much time in the gym. I don't have to be in the gym, 6 to 8 hours a day. I can refine that. I can change that. Maybe I'm at the range a couple hours. Maybe I'm in the gym less time. Maybe I can go ride my bike for an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
But also learning to appreciate and go do things maybe outside that regimented plan that I think I had for so long. I enjoyed it. It was a chapter of my life that I dedicated everything to. And I go back to my 2011 version of myself, and it's like, oh, I want to make it to the games. It's like, all right, cool, you did it, awesome, yay. And then you did it for 6 years in a row as an individual, and then team. So it's like, all right, pat yourself on the back, enjoy it. What do I want to move on to? What do I want to do? And I think as I got older, also, I'm like, all right, we're not always guaranteed every day, week, month, year. But what can I do to enjoy my life now, but also tomorrow, next month, and make sure I take the most of every opportunity.
Exactly.
So like when the 100 Games comes, like, all right, cool. Like when will this happen again? I don't know if it's going to happen again. Let me take this opportunity to go do it.
Yeah. I'll clear my schedule, make it happen.
Things are open. I can do it.
How has the tactical games differed from the CrossFit Games?
Oh, it's like, I would say night and day almost, just because you have the firearms. So there's a huge element of safety there. The only thing that's closest come to competition like that was the Rogue Invitational in 2019, where they had kind of like a biathlon where like we had a ski on the ski erg, and then we had our biathlon. I think we had prone and standing. We had like 3 rounds, and that was the only thing that's kind of came to it. But it's different in the sense where like there's a lot more like safety rules, but also you don't really know what you're going to do like literally the night before. Where the CrossFit Games or competitions like that's kind of like regionals, like you knew everything, a week before.
Yeah,
every
train
event.
for it.
Yeah, exactly, you kind of train for it. And the tactical games is kind of different because like they have anything from rope climbs to like breaking open a barrier, like shooting out of containers. The one I did in in September of last year. There was a lot of sandbag work, sled work, which I absolutely loved. Then there was a 3-mile run with all your kit and gear. I was like, all right, cool. It was a little different. I'd done some good amount of running with like my vest.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know if I should run in Vegas with my like full like pistol rifle slung around me. I'm pretty sure I'll get the cops called on
Yeah,
me.
for sure.
But yeah, it was good because it's like, again, you kind of don't know what you're training for, but you have some parameters. You can I would look back like old YouTube videos or look back old competitions from before. Like, all right, what kind of things did you have competition wise, event wise? They have like a structure like, all right, cool. You have 2 events, first day, 2 events, second day, and then you have a floater on each day. Or maybe you have 3 events and 3 events. So it just depends on what they had planned. But it's like the shooting, you don't know what it is. Like, all right, you have pistol about 15 yards, rifle about 50 yards, but you don't know how many rounds or how many mags. But it's like you can have an idea of it. But for sure, I think that safety element of having the firearms, and obviously in the games you don't have any of that. So it's different. I think I like it. I would say the tactical games are a little bit more like grassroots, like early days CrossFits right now. I know it's slowly growing more and more.
Smaller though.
It's smaller though for sure. And I like that because when I went to it, I was like, man, this is like, feels like Aromas days of CrossFit. Even though I never went to Aromas, like seeing the videos and photos, I'm like, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And I really loved it. I love the community. I love that kind of, hey, it's like kind of a weekend competition in the sense where it's like local people, all these people come together to celebrate and compete together and throw down. But everyone was super awesome, super nice, always willing to help out. I've met some really cool people through the games, and like some of them I guess I'll talk to, which is obviously great because like there's so many people you meet these days, depending on what you do. But I really like it. That's where I'm like, I really want to do another one. And like obviously working through getting better through a back issue is always frustrating.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, I know I'm trying to be smarter. Like, all right, don't push myself to the point where like I re-injure it, but it's like be prepared so then I can train for the next one. Because I love it. It's challenging, but it's fun.
Is it mentally more taxing just thinking through your shots? And
I think for me, just because I don't have as much experience shooting, that I'm like, okay, like you have 8 rounds or 8 rounds and 3 your mags, and you're like, all right, cool, I got to make sure these count because you're scored not only in your time but then also the shooting aspect. So for me, it's like you really got to be focused, like you got to be in. I think just in shooting in general, and I could be wrong. Again, I have minimal experience compared to some other people, but from what I've been through, it's like you're so focused and you're so in tune that when you're done, you're like, whew. You're physically, mentally exhausted, and kind of like it's a little more expenditure than you maybe just have from just like a physical workout.
Are most of the top competitors coming from the military community?
I think there's a good handful of them that have either prior experience, either military or they're Leo. It's their job now. One of the girls actually competed with her. I competed with her in the CrossFit Games in 2018. That's part of her job. I think she works in a correctional facility. I could be wrong, so don't quote me. She's super awesome. I love her, but she has a kind of that as her job, like part of her, I would say, not industry, but like repertoire in terms of what she's around. But some people for sure have come from prior military, whether they were, from any branch, and then also like Leo now, police force, police like PD.
Yeah.
And it's been cool just to connect with people. They do have their own like division. They have like a tactical division. So if you are Leo or anything within that realm, then you can compete in that division. Then they have like the elite. And the intermediate, and that's just based off of like weight that you would like use for like a sandbag or loading, where the shooting's the same. So it's like shooting's the same, but it's just like, all right, cool. Instead of a 100-pound sandbag, you're doing a 60 or 70.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
that sounds fun.
it is. Yeah. Would you ever do one?
I would love to do one. Yeah.
You should totally do one.
Yeah, that stuff is like mixing those 2 components would be amazing.
Yeah, I think you do really well with it. I really liked it. Again, I want to do more. I think that a lot of people have reached out. And after I did my first one, I had men and women, but a lot of women reached out like, oh my God, this is so cool. How do you get into it? Like, what are the steps? I was like, here, this is what I did because I didn't really know. But it's like, you need to have all this full kit. There's the links for information of details of what you need to have, magazine pouches, everything. But yeah, it's really cool. It's something different. And I think depending on their schedule, they usually have one a month in different locations. And I want to say there's like, they do one a month, and I think they do like maybe 1 to 2 a month. Because I want to say that last year they had like 11 or 12 of them. So I think they have them like every 2 or 3 weeks, depending on where they're going. But yeah, you'd love it. It's awesome.
It's cool to see it growing too. Like that community just continues to grow in the country, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot more people are taking interest into it, which is really unique to see. Because again, you don't look at, there's more shooting competitions, just shooting for sure. And I feel like that's something I don't really know much about because I've never done any of that. Looks really cool. I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
But that for sure would require more training. But it's really, really awesome to see other people getting into it, learning and wanting to learn and like get involved. Whether they want to be competitive in it or they just want to do it to put themselves in a different environment. Because I think a lot of that, you look at real life scenarios as well. Not that you want to think that, but it's better to be prepared and, you know, not need to do certain things. But it's like, all right, cool. Like if it's a real situation and you're in that environment, you know, what do you need to do? You need to keep your heart rate down. You need to be calm. You need to make sure your shot is counting or hitting the targets. Again, not that you want to think that way, but you just never know with life and where the world is now.
It's good to be prepared.
Yeah.
I did want to back up just for a few minutes and listen to you. Just how did you lose your sister in 2008?
So I lost her in a car accident.
Okay.
It was January 31st, 2008. And she had just came back. She went to school in Oregon. It was Portland State. And she came back to Missoula. She enrolled in the University of Montana. She was doing like some art classes. She'd gone to school for business. And she's like, this is not my thing. This is not like my cup of tea. Finance. I was like, there's no way. She's very artistic like my mom.
Yeah.
Amazing painter. We actually dedicated one of the wines to her. It was called The Purple Tree. And so we used her painting as the image on the wine, like the wine label. Yeah. But she died in a car accident. It was kind of like it was a really bad snowstorm. They were saying, you know, you shouldn't be on the road. But she's like, she just got a second job in Missoula. I think it's where like Plunk. There's a Plunk here. I think in Bozeman, there's also a Plunk in Missoula. And I think the previous location, the previous place of whatever was there, that's where she just got another job. And so she was like so excited because she found a culinary school in San Diego. And she's like, I'm gonna go to culinary school. And she wanted to open like a little bakery, do like kind of like pastries and stuff like that. I was like, man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And so she picked up another job to bring in more money. So she's working, so we're gonna work 2 jobs, bring enough money. And then I think the school started in like May, I think. And so the goal and the idea kind of was, I think May or June, because the goal and idea was because this is my last semester of university, was when I graduated and Remy graduated, we were all going to like drive like kind of down together. I would go because I was planning to go to the Bay Area, and my other sister, Remy, was going to go. My youngest sister was going to go to LA, and she was going to go. I think the culinary schools in San Diego or between San Diego and LA, and that was kind of the goal and plan. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she died in a car accident. It was just kind of all of a sudden like sudden. She lost control. It was icy roads, and there was a car. There was like only one other car on the road, but she had lost control to like the left, and the car had T-boned her like right in the middle. And she died instantly. And I think she knew. She was very intuitive, very like spiritual, and she had expressed to my mom like not right before she passed away, but like a few months, maybe a year before she passed it, she felt that she was going to die young. And I was
Crazy.
like, damn. And my mom told me that. I like lost that, like, like crying so hard.
She knew something.
She knew, and she was very intuitive. Like she would always, if we were like around animals, she'd always be the one, like pigeons, sounds weird, but she'd always be the one like, oh, let me see if I can touch the pigeon. And like Remy and I couldn't get to it, but she'd be able to have that connection. So she had definitely something special. So when she passed, it was devastating because I remember like 10 days before we had just left. I was home for Christmas, and the last time we really got to hang out was we went snowboarding together with some friends of mine, and we went up snowboarding and Lost Trail.
Oh man!
But, so like I had a great time, spent all day out there, and we came home, and she's like, "All right, I'm gonna go hang out with my friends in Missoula." I was like, "How the hell are you gonna go do this?" I was like, "I'm smoked." Like we just like spent like 6-8 hours on the mountain. She's like, "No," and she had the attitude for sure, like, you know, you only live once, like make the most of every opportunity. Yeah, take advantage of it. And so I was like, "All right, cool. Like we'll see you in Missoula." Because I was flying out the next day back to Hawaii for school, and she and her friends went out party too hard. I didn't see her at the airport, but she was like, "I'll see you when we meet up next." I was like, "Okay," and then we talked a little bit. I think one of the last conversations we had on the phone, she called me. She was kind of seeing a guy. They're kind of seeing each other, and she just was, I think, kind of trying to deal with like falling in love with someone and like be with someone that she really liked.
Yeah.
And she was just working through emotions, and so we talked on the phone. And that was kind of like the last conversation. And then I missed a call from her, and I was like, all right, I'm going to call her back. And like a couple days went by, I'm like, oh, I forgot to call her back. I was like getting ready for classes. And then I was like, all right, I need to call her back. And on the 31st, I was going to my communications class. And I remember I was like, all right, I need to call Cheerson when I get out. And when I got out, I forgot. I was like, oh my God, I had an interview for like Lululemon or something like that to get a job.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'll call her when I'm like headed out there when I'm on the bus. And then I remember getting out of the shower, and I saw a missed call from my mom. And I was like, oh man, I called her. And she just like, my mom was trying to hold it together.
Yeah.
But it's like, she told me, and I was like, there's no way, like, that's not possible. Like it's almost like real, like it's not real. Like it's not that, how is that possible? Yeah, I can't believe it. Like there's no way, like you have to have the wrong person. Like there's no way. So I think it broke my heart because one, not being able to talk to her like 10 days. I think the last time we talked was the 21st, and it's like, that's 10 days have gone by.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I get a lot of kind of where I'm at now. I'm like, if I'm thinking someone, like send them a message, send them an email, like call them, whatever. Because it's like, I think that's sometimes, you never know. I have a little bit of that regret sometimes. And she was just someone that was like so full of life. And I was like, all right, she's no longer here, but I can, live for her. I can at least enjoy life and continue to do what I'm doing for myself to hopefully embody her. And I think when I found out, got like a flight home and everything like that, and I was on the plane, and I think this is where it kind of gives me some peace of mind. On the flight home, I was like asleep, and I remember having this dream. It was crazy. It was super quick. Have you ever been to like Hawaii or Honolulu or anything
I have,
like that?
yeah.
So they have Waikiki, and they have like a lot of high-rise apartment complexes and like hotels there. I was sitting in some living room. It wasn't mine, just some living room. And I see her outside this like sliding glass door. And her hair is like all crazy. It was like super dark curly. And I see it like flipping around everywhere. And I see her. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I run over to the door. And I go to open it, the sliding glass door. And as I open it, it's like completely calm, like no wind, no noise, nothing. And she's like, I can't come in, but I'm okay. And as soon as she said that, like I woke up and I was like, damn, I tried to go back to sleep to have that dream. So I think
That's amazing.
yeah, I think it was her way to communicate to me. That's like, hey, like I'm no longer here, obviously.
I'm
I
okay.
can't come back, but I'm okay. So I think for me, it was really good to at least have that, give me some sort of peace of mind. And obviously my sister was like, why didn't she come to me in my dream? I was like, oh, I was like trying not to cry.
That's an amazing dream though.
Yeah. So, and I have a handful of dreams kind of over the years. And I think it's again, like, it's so sad. It's like she was 20 years old. Like how was someone like that, like that was going to restart, kind of find her own passion, like find out what she really wanted to do and then have it be taken away. And I was like, how could you do that to someone when like there's so many messed up people in the life doing bad things? And it's like, why not them?
Yeah.
And in my mind, in my beliefs, it's like, I think everything happens for a reason. And it's sometimes like, I don't want to believe that, but it's like things don't happen for a reason, whatever it might be. We don't know now, maybe in the future, maybe when we pass, we'll find out. And I think it was like maybe her life is meant to go somewhere else, or she was called to go somewhere else. I was like, all right, that's a good positive way to look at it.
For sure.
But yeah, so she's been a huge inspiration kind of in my life and like motivation to say, all right, cool. Like you're not guaranteed every single day, but you can make the most of the life that you have, make the most of every opportunity. So try to embody that as much as I can in my life. And hopefully give that inspiration to other people if they're like in a point where maybe they're stuck or they're in a rut and they're like not sure what they want to do or where they want to go. Hopefully sharing my story. And I've been open about it. 'Cause I'm like, I want it to be open. Like I don't want it to be something that we can't talk about. 'Cause I feel like death is something that we don't celebrate.
Happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Our time is finite. Like we are going to all pass away at some point or other. How we pass away, when we pass away, we don't know. But it's like when she passed, we did a celebration of life to celebrate her life. As much as I want her to still be here, and I know she would be loving things and making the most of it. It's at least my way to kind of continue her life and her story, and dedicate it to her. So the new label I have has a little bit of her in it. So it's kind of a rendition.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you kind of go through like a rock bottom phase first before you were able to kind of climb out with like a new outlook and mindset?
I don't know if I hit rock bottom. I know there was definitely points that were pivotal where I was like, I think I was struggling a lot to like get through where I wanted to be. I think I was trying to find myself after that. 'Cause it's like, it was always us three, myself and my two sisters, and her being gone was like, all right. I think I struggled with like the guilt of not like calling her, but I think I also struggled with like being an older sister. It's like, I didn't save her. I think that's the one thing that I struggled with the most. And not being able to save her, that was kind of figuring out like, all right, well, if I couldn't save her, like, what do I do? And I think that's where I've tried to figure out like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? I think I went through a little bit of like rambunctiousness of like going a little, like partying a little harder, maybe like trying to do different stuff. But I felt like it didn't ever get to the point where it was like out of control. I know my sister struggled with it a lot harder than I did. I know she definitely had some hard points in her life. I'm glad she made it through it. I try to be there as much as we can, but I think the death and, me moving not home and going somewhere else, it was kind of a pivotal point that kind of maybe drove us apart for a little bit.
Yeah.
Which was hard because she was so close with Kirsten because they were, 2 years apart and they were in Missoula at the same time, like, spending almost every day or every weekend together. And it's like, I was in Hawaii still, so I wasn't home around.
They were close.
So they were a lot closer. So I think she struggled. She was also 4 years younger than me, so she was younger. She was 18. So I think she's for sure had challenging points to get through it, but she's made it through it. She's been able to pick herself up, and she's in a way better place now. I don't think I went through as much of that. I think I maybe internalized it as well. I didn't put it out there. I think I more struggled with it internally. And I think that for me to be able to like go run or go work out, that was like my outlet. Instead of, turning to drugs or drinking too much, I mean, there was definitely times, like I said, I went partying, but I don't think it ever got to the point where it was too crazy. I think I used the fitness and running as a way to deal with that. And I think when I moved to the Bay Area, I was thankful because I found a lot of friends that were also personal trainers and that loved, exercise, fitness. And a couple of my friends were doing training for half marathons. And I was like, well, why not?
Yeah.
I've never run a half marathon. Let me try this. And I think it was good. I think it helped me. I think those first few 4 years, it helped me pivot and say, all right, cool. Where do I want to go? How do I want to move that needle in a direction that's more positive? So I think the running was a solace, the fitness was a solace. And I think when I found CrossFit, it was kind of like that snap of the fingers where it's like, all right, this helped me even more because I think maybe I had to spend more time with myself when I'm working out or I'm doing stuff.
And that endorphin rush.
Yeah,
too.
the endorphin rush. And I think maybe that helped. Like that endorphin rush was like, all right, cool. This is going to help me feel better. And of course, there's still days where like it hits me harder than others, but I'm like, all right, I know like she's not here, but I can live for her, and I can continue to do things for my life, for myself that I know that she can, hopefully see somewhere else.
Yeah, so, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that, but
that's okay.
I think the fact that like death is facing us all is interesting in our society. How like we tend to forget that more than ever before, just because life has gotten so comfortable. But it's something that like we're all facing, and we all need to realize that, and like living the best and most abundant life we can with the limited amount of time we can is. I agree. Kind of the only way to do it.
And I think it's 100%. That's 100% spot on. And I think, like you said, life gets so busy, we get caught up in like the rat race. We get caught up in the next thing. We got to do this, and the next week, and the next month. And having goals and aspirations are great, but I think when we stop and we don't have necessarily anything going on, it's so busy to be so easy to be distracted because we can hop on our phone, we could play a game, we can watch a movie. But it's like, when was the last time you just like sat and stared at out of a window and like looked at the mountain and sat with your thoughts and your emotions? And I think you can kind of do it when you're driving if you're not listening to music or not listening to a podcast, and you're listening to music. So I feel like music can pull emotion out of you if it reminds you of something. And it's like, death's inevitable, it's going to happen, but it's like, how can we really live our life, and how can we really be fulfilling in what we're doing? And again, I try to, a reminder is like, all right, cool. When I catch myself sometimes, I'm like, all right, Margaux, like we're not always having this opportunity to be here. And I think, in the fitness space, or, if you're doing, I know like the Murph is always in May. And I think that's a big reminder, like we're doing it for those people that aren't here, they sacrifice their life so we could be here. And for those people that maybe didn't like make it through, or that were in a serious accident or went through something bad, or maybe they had an OD, whatever it is. It's like, we're still here. We can still make the most of our life, because tomorrow, next week, like it can change. Guarantee. And not that you want to think like that, right? Not a guarantee, but it's like, all right, I'm going to make the most of everything that I have, because not everyone has that. They're not here. They're not always alive, and they're not always with us. So it's like, let's do this for ourselves and do that for them.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to. So many people would be thrilled to have like the opportunities we get every day, especially from the fitness perspective. Like,
for sure,
the difficult workouts that we're walking into, there's so many of our friends that would like die to have that opportunity, that maybe have missing limbs or maybe aren't here anymore. And like,
exactly,
we're nervous about it, but they would give everything to do that again.
Yeah. And when you said one of them, I remember from the 2015 games, I remember this, we were about to do Murph, and it's like, oh man, like it's a competition. You're out there, you want to do really well. But Dave Castro all pulled us together and was like, hey, like, I know you guys are all here for the competition. You all want to win, but it's like, remembering like we're doing this for those that aren't here. We're doing for those that gave their life so that you could be here to do with this, what you're doing. I was like, damn. Yeah. And that friend of mine, he was a SEAL for 20 years. He gave me one of their coins. And so I literally had that in like my pocket running as like a reminder. I was like, all right, cool. Like, cause I would get nervous before workouts. I was like, man, I need to go to the bathroom. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Yeah. And so like, I try to like put perspective on a lot of things where it's like, people aren't here. People don't have legs or don't have arms, or they're worried about, being shot at by a different tribe, or they live in a hut made of mud. And it's like, we are very privileged to have this opportunity. Like, we decided to be here on this floor to compete. We decided to do this. We're going to do this workout, and as much as it makes us nervous, it's like perspective is huge sometimes, and it's a good reminder.
Yeah. Yeah, the pressure is a huge privilege.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't get that pressure.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, man, sometimes you don't want it, but it's like, you signed up, step up.
Yeah.
Don't be a bee,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you swung by the lab. It's amazing that you're back in Montana.
I love your place. And like I said, every time I come back to Montana, I'm like, the more I want to come back here. Like, I should just move back here. I should just move back home. Because it is home. It reminds me, it brings me back all my memories, but also like it's very peaceful. It's very calming. It's like, oh man, like I just feel like such in a better place physically, mentally, and emotionally. And like getting to see good people, like being able to be around you and other people and everyone that I've met here, like they've been so awesome. And it's like, I think I've yearned for that. I think our body knows and our heart knows and our mind knows that it pulls us in different directions. And our intuition is huge.
It's big.
Yeah. It's like if your body is telling you something, like listen to that because there is a reason why. So I'm so grateful that you guys opened your doors and let me come in. This is amazing. I absolutely love it.
And the hunting's good here?
Yes, I know. That's what I've heard. So I definitely want to come back and I definitely want to do more hunting. And just again, like hearing people's stories and their hunts and what they've learned and their experiences and how they've moved or how their body and mind has changed from doing all that. I feel like it can have an impact. And you think back to like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, how things used to be so different.
Yeah.
And where we're at now, it's like, I mean, again, there's pros and cons to everything, but it's like, how can we utilize that in a more positive way?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a good tool to shape character.
Agreed.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And I like being around good people because it's like you feed off that good energy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you. And how can people follow you and find more about your journey?
So they can find me almost on every social media platform, 321GO, GAUX, like Instagram or Twitter, and then like YouTube, Margaux Alvarez, TikTok, Margaux Alvarez. Yeah, almost every. So you just search my name or the 321GO will pop up. I'll be doing a new website for the wine once we do the new production, and that's just margauxalvarez.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. So.
And you're doing a lot of YouTube content now too.
Yeah, trying to do a lot more. I think it's really like I think there's when you're in the fitness industry and too, like you're in that, like it's every part of your life, exactly what you're doing. Like, cool, I want to build my posterior chain. This is what I need to do. All right, I want to build my glutes, my hips. But there's a lot of people out there that don't know. So I've just tried to put as much content out there, videos on educational tutorials, whether that's mobility, strength, flexibility, and then some mindset training kind of things you can do to reach your goals. So I've just tried to put more and more content out there. It's really hard to grow a YouTube channel.
It's hard.
It's very difficult. It's very time consuming. But I think, again, for myself, it's like, if I can just provide as much content out there and hopefully help others. And it's tough because sometimes I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. I'm like going around and around. I'm like, am I making a difference? Like, I feel like I'm in a rocking chair or I'm a hamster right now. I'm doing something, but I'm not going anywhere. I feel like I'm working really hard, but not getting a result. But then people reach out and like, oh man, like your video was so helpful, or, oh, I've never had it broken down like that, or, oh, you provided scaling options I never thought of. I'm like, oh man, all right, cool. So it's to be able to make an impact. Not that it has to make an impact on everyone, but if it helps one person, that one person then helps someone else, like, cool, that's great.
For sure.
Yeah. So
it's a perspective too, because I think with the digital space, it's easy to lose sight of that. We've definitely gone through that same struggle, but it's like if 1,200 people watch one of your videos and you put that in perspective, like how difficult it is to speak to 1,200 people in one room.
That's a great point.
It's like,
that's a great point.
You can impact way more lives. You're just not being able to see or touch them.
Yeah.
But it's a good lens to look at it through. Like, could I fit this many people in a room and speak to them all at one time? You can reach a lot of people.
Yeah, I like that. I'm definitely going to use that as a reminder, because there's sometimes I'm like, man, like, oh, this one view only got like 500 views. I'm like, what? This is BS. And then I'm like, all right, cool. That's a great perspective. Like, all right, cool. Like, could I reach 500 people in a seminar? Like, if I'm able to do that, awesome. But most likely it's very hard, especially
those
if they're
big.
coming.
Yeah,
those are big. And like getting all those people in one space and being able to communicate and answer all their questions when someone could, write a comment, and then I can answer it like right there. So that's great. So that's a very good perspective. I appreciate you sharing that.
You're doing good work. We're proud of you and
appreciate it.
Glad you're here.
Me too. I'm excited to hang out and work out with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.